I wanted to introduce myself and then Ben will introduce himself, but I recognize lots of faces out there, but my name's Katie Collins and I'm the recruiter here at the University of Michigan out of our office in the Student Activities Building. It's so great that a lot of you have already come and seen us there. And I just wanted to say thanks for coming. We're super happy that you guys are here. For the applicants, the candidates, we're totally here to celebrate you. And for the families, thank you so much for supporting us throughout the application process, sending us all those awesome care packages while we were in service. And to the Ford School, thanks for having us. And Michael, our Detroit-based recruiter. I know a lot of the applicants have had contact with Michael. And for our Chicago office as well, thank you so much for coming and helping us out. And to the RPCVs who brought food, thank you so much. I'll kick it over to Ben to introduce himself and introduce our first speaker. But again, thank you so much for coming, and we're super excited that you guys are here.
Thanks, Katie. So my name is Benjamin Morse. I am also a recruiter here at U of M working with Katie, and I'm a first-year master's candidate in the School of Natural Resource and Environment. And the person that I want to introduce today is an associate professor. She teaches both at SNRE and the Department of Anthropology. She is a returned Peace Corps volunteer from the Central African Republic. She served from '89 to '92. And she was an apicultural volunteer and a conservation volunteer. So since then, she's gone on and done unbelievable amounts of things, and I definitely don't have enough time to go over all of her amazing stories and credentials. But today she is an anthropologist, and her recent projects focus on increasing intertwined practices within health, the environment, corporate governance in Southern and Eastern Africa, including South Africa, Kenya, Cameroon, and the Central African Republic. And she also provides a lot of support to SNRE's weekly environmental talk show on the radio here at U of M, 88.3, I believe. And she does a wonderful job helping all of those students kind of share the environmental stories and kind of discuss their research through that platform. And I actually had the honor of being on the show with her and just seeing her really quick-wittedness in action. It was quite amazing, but I don't actually have to tell you about it because she's here today. So I wanted to introduce Dr. Rebecca Hardin.
Thank you, Benjamin. It takes one to know one, and we've got a room full of us tonight. So everything he said, and all of it right back at all of you, I would like to welcome all of you to this slightly more formal part of the evening. I would like to congratulate all of you on the fact that you've made it through the labyrinthine process of Peace Corps application and Peace Corps acceptance and Peace Corps assignment, which I know can be kind of complex, and actually getting cleared to head out and serve, which brings me to the last thing I want to say before I actually start speaking, which is that I want to both welcome, congratulate, and thank you in advance for the way that you are about to engage in service to your country, and certainly to your country. But also to wider worlds in ways that are so needed in the wider world right now. I'm so excited by what I see all of you poised to give, and I wanted to say that partly because what I'm going to do mostly is talk about what you're going to get out of doing all of this, or at least what I got out of doing it. It's been a long time since I swore in for Peace Corps service in the Central African Republic. It was a warm day in December in 1988 in Bangui, Central African Republic, on the banks of the Ubangi River, and I was pretty full of myself at the time. I had been through a 6-month training process that had begun in St. Helena's Island, South Carolina, right here in the United States, in one of the places that had been a training ground for those same people we're on about this past few months that were behind Selma, that were involved in civil rights, in civil disobedience. I felt as though I was coming out of a training center that had a long legacy of advocacy for human rights and nonviolent ways of making the world work better for all its citizens. And that was really a wonderful feeling to have. I had also been humiliated lots of times by trying to learn how to work bees, And we started that process with Europeanized bees in South Carolina, and then got sent to a previous colonial boarding school for boys on the banks of Lake Kivu in what was then Zaire. It was actually in an old school that had become, an old colonial boys' school that had become something known as the ISP, the Institut Supérieur Pédagogique for Zaire, and it was full of teachers, Zairean teachers, who were learning how to be better teachers, and they were teaching us how to do the same. And they were so full of optimism about their big country. They were so full of the challenges of teaching across the very disparate regions of the Congo Basin. But they were so on fire about it. And at night, you know, there were bars and cafes where everyone would go out and drink cold beer and dance and talk until 2 in the morning and eat salted peanuts. There was a mood in the 1980s that was nothing like the mood in that area only a few short years later, when war had broken out and there had been such enormous suffering in that entire region. Suffering which, I might add, continues today. So you probably all know the expression about how when you become a parent, it's like you take your heart out of yourself beating and set it down to walk around in the world in the person of your child, which I can say now that I'm a parent is actually quite right on. I guess I would say to you tonight that being a Peace Corps volunteer is more like taking another heart into your body that's going to beat alongside the one you already have, and sometimes it will bleed for what it sees happening in the communities where you're going to live and work over time, because the optimism and kind of energy and hope of post-colonial equatorial Africa that I saw as a Peace Corps volunteer has given way to a sense of real desperation and urgency in the Central African Republic where I served, in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. But I am so thankful to be connected to those memories of optimism and hope, to know where to go in all of the terrible media about all of the violence and fear, to know where to go, to say to people, you know what, there's also a lot of good teachers out there in those communities, still. And they're going to get through this. And there's going to be change, right? So what I would say about Peace Corps in some ways is that I have the most respect for its ability to mass produce cross-cultural relationships at a scale that is sort of amazing. And it is not always perfect. But I think that those relationships are a very real resource, both for all of us engaged in them, right? Leaving Bangui after swearing in with my newly acquired skills working with Africanized bees and my local language training that I had acquired thanks to some really gracious Central Africans who came down to Bukavu, Zaire, and sat and spoke to us as if we were infants for days and days and days. And, you know, I was like, what? But that was a really remarkable model for getting me up to speed, up to fluency in local languages in ways that meant that when I eventually got to post, I could say, yeah, I did sleep well. How did you sleep? And people were like, oh, she's going to be okay. I mean, it was really impressive, right? Your tax dollars at work. I mean, it was amazing. I was really inspired from the beginning. And I have to say that by the time I got out to my field site, which was a very small village in the northwestern part of the Central African Republic, not too far from Cameroon's border, from parts of Chad, I was pretty ready to start building these relationships I'm talking about as resources. They were very real relationships, and by that I mean they were not perfect. One of the things that I got out of the Peace Corps was an ability to understand that just because I represented a revenue stream for many people in that community, I was, even as a Peace Corps volunteer, I was earning a salary that was so much bigger than what most of them earned, right? And even though I recognized that that set me apart from many of them and connected me to many of them in ways that were kind of uncomfortable sometimes, it didn't mean that there weren't also genuine moments of affection between us, of humor, of mutual respect, of real intimacy that was independent of that economic chasm that separated me from them. And that realness of those relationships was very hard to leave and come home. I remember weeping at leaving some of my closest friends there. And at the time, I couldn't even imagine how hard it would later become to go back and to be in touch with them. It was just the fact of not sitting there, having fried beignets and tea or coffee together day in and day out, while I waited for night to fall so that I could work the bees without anyone getting hurt. I mean, I had long days to talk with people about their parents, their marriages, their children, how they kept bees before the USAID came in and told them how they should do it. Oh, they had their ways. And that learning from them was perhaps one of the most interesting things that happened. Many of them said, no one's ever asked us how we keep bees before. You Peace Corps people are okay, you know. You're really interesting. Like, you're interested in how we do things and then how you can help. Not just coming in to tell us what we need to know. It was a wonderful experience, and it was really wrenching to leave. But those relationships have also been very, very resilient over time. And they've been a part of me going forward. I still see in my dreams a lot of the women who became my closest friends during those 3 years in the CAR. I should say that because I was so involved in learning and really thinking about the way I was learning in CAR, like, it seemed to me the perfect coda after a university education, a complement to the classroom learning I had been doing up until then. I didn't know what I wanted to do in the world, but I knew I needed to know more. And Peace Corps was engaged learning before engaged learning was all the rage at University of Lake Michigan. The most engaged learning, right? So the resilience of those relationships was partly about the fact that I was not seeing my role there as saving anyone, or even really did I know how to help anyone in ways that they couldn't have saved themselves or helped themselves. But I was learning so much, and so were they. It was a reciprocal learning relationship. And that's a very powerful thing. I went back as a doctoral student. I got a Fulbright grant and did field research in some of the same villages where I had worked as a volunteer. So in the end, I spent about 6 years of my 20s in the Central African Republic. I just wasn't done yet. But I knew the volunteer stage was over, and I'm seeing Brian Arbic nod his head in the audience, someone who's actually continued those learning relationships back into his life as a faculty member, the way many of us try to do. The resilience of those relationships is quite remarkable if you nurture it even a little. And the way those relationships serve as resources, right, both to us in our careers, but also to our partners in country who are seeking to broaden access to educational platforms, who are seeking to implement things that they're learning in new ways, who have small experiments and big experiments in their own worlds that need support, mentorship, guidance, resources that we can help leverage. That is a resource. And it's a resource that's not about aid in the sense of our saving or helping. It's just about being willing to engage and build those relationships. I think that's one of the reasons why of our entire cohort of beekeeping volunteers, I was one of only 2 who actually stayed the whole time. It wasn't because I was handling the bee stings better. On the contrary, I was really misshapen and swollen a lot of the time and could barely talk. But it was because I was in it to learn with Central Africans. And that was such a wonderful ride that I let it continue bearing me through a series of educational experiences and into my PhD in anthropology, which I chose as a field because it seemed to me the closest thing to a discipline built around listening to people first. My own students now, many of them are going into the Peace Corps. And I am learning through the relationships to my students how much has changed since I swore in and swore out and went back as a Fulbright scholar. A lot has changed. I think of one student who served in Morocco and was so frustrated by the limitations to her mobility because of security concerns. They had to be in groups, but they couldn't be too big, the groups, and there were all these things that I never had to worry about. We had Suzuki 125s, and we could just ride around the savannah. I would go to Equatorial Guinea for the weekend alone in bush taxis, like riding around with the mamas in the back. It was great. I mean, it was really great. I had no idea how great it was at the time. My daughter could never travel in those ways, through those regions, at this time. But someday. So those frustrations for that volunteer in Morocco, the way that gender in Morocco is quite different than in the Central African Republic, right? The constraints on the way she could build relationships with men and with women in her rural post. She was so frustrated by the way that the in-country Peace Corps administration was handling those challenges that she came back, went to Clark University, and wrote a master's thesis about the challenges for in-country Peace Corps staff in mediating the relationships between American volunteers and these rural communities. Kind of got that out of her system. It was a great piece of work, after which she's gone back to Ghana, married a Ghanaian, and is working in NGO sectors in Ghana on poverty eradication and gender and education issues at the moment. Another student who served in Ukraine, I mean, he was a Yooper from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, who came down here, and I met him as a freshman, and he was so unclear about what he wanted to do in the wider world, but because he was a great big tall blonde Swedish American, and because in my classes we talked a bit about marginalized peoples in Sweden, the Sami, reindeer herders who are sort of on the edges of the Swedish state, he decided to do a study abroad in Sweden and got so interested in the way that different people live in different parts of the world that he decided to join the Peace Corps. He had his own challenges. Rebecca, can we talk on the phone or Skype or something? They're telling me I can't wear these white glasses that I really love because they look so hip because they stand out too much, but I want to wear them, and if people talk to me about them, I don't mind, right? Those were some of the challenges that he was facing. And he also came back to Michigan after getting into lots of social work graduate programs, chose this one, and came back and thought about those relationships from his Peace Corps service. Now, of course, we're building that experience into our master's education through the international program, right? And I'm so excited about the way that Peace Corps is embracing the power of itself as an educational experience. I can't even tell you. Well, I could, but I won't. Because I think it might be nice, actually, for you to ask any questions that you might have. Because what I really wanted to leave you with is just my sense that through all of these decades now, really, since I served, and since the Peace Corps was created here at the University of Michigan, at the very beginning of the 60s, when the world faced even different challenges, Peace Corps remains both an experience and a community of exceptional value in this world. And I will repeat that it is never perfect. It cannot be by virtue of its ambition, right? But it is pretty darn good. And when I learned from it, what I took from it really, was both an education about development, right? And how external and internal forces collide in development processes. I got an education about conservation, human relationships to wildlife, and how external values of wildlife become policy. But I also learned self-preservation. I went into Peace Corps a college student who was ceaselessly pushing her limits, whether through deprivation of sleep or wretched excess of various kinds, which all of you can probably imagine. And I got to the Central African Republic and realized that I needed to watch what I ate and drank. And I needed to sleep enough. And I needed to take my anti-malarial medication. I was lucky to have it. I needed to watch myself for signs of things that might be a problem. It really changed my own relationship to myself as an adult to learn those lessons. And the people who helped me learn them, my neighbors and friends, the families I lived with, were so patient. And sometimes they were also frustrated with me, and they would push and challenge me. But all of that was part of my learning how to take care of myself in the world. I also learned so much about how to communicate. And if I could leave you with one piece of advice, it would probably be one of the biggest ones I learned in terms of communication. Benjamin mentioned the radio show, which of course is another way of communicating. The importance of communicating in modes that don't require literacy, that don't require expert knowledge or jargon, has stayed with me from my work in the Peace Corps. I can publish lots of articles, but if I look at statistics, the likelihood that more than about 8.3 people are ever going to read them is pretty low. Now, they may be a really important 8 people for my career advancement or for my field, but what am I doing to make sure that the science I do reaches a wider audience and belongs to that wider audience? Peace Corps taught me a lot about how to do that effectively, which I now share with a really energetic group of students, which I really value. But even more than that, and the tip I would leave you with as I cease speaking, is that it taught me how to be generous all the time on my terms. By the time I left villages where I worked in the Central African Republic, whether the beekeeping villages in the Northwest or the places where I worked in conservation and development in the Southwest, I felt beloved, widely beloved. And I felt that people knew that I honestly was there to help in any way that my status as a relative outsider could be helpful. But no one ever expected that they could show up on my door and ask for anything, medicine, a cigarette, money, because I was, after all, a female volunteer and fairly young. And Peace Corps helped me learn how to be both very generous and genuinely engaged with people, but also how to respect boundaries, both theirs and my own. And those were very valuable life lessons. And I would impart to you then just my gratitude to the folks in CAR who kind of raised me, in a way, and taught me some of those life lessons. I believe you'll learn many of your own lessons as you go out into much different settings than the ones that I lived in, right? Many of you won't be living in a thatched roof hut. You might be teaching in a complex urban neighborhood, surrounded by computers rather than by goats and bees. But it's still going to carry those kinds of lessons about how to be you in a world that desperately needs the energy you bring, and how to put that other heart inside yourself in ways that will expand your awareness of the world for the rest of your life and allow you to be that resilient and resourceful relationship in the world as it's changing. I'll stop there, and if anyone has a question, I'd be happy to take it, or maybe we can open it up later, I don't know. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much again, Rebecca, to have you here. Okay, on to a different part of the evening. So applicants, candidates, you've braved the application. Some of you came from the old system, which I know might have been frustrating to come to the new one. And a lot of you worked in the new application system and could school all of us RPCVs on all of the crazy new changes. So at this time, we'd like to celebrate and recognize you. So could we get all of the applicants, all of the invitees, any Peace Corps candidate, if you submitted your application yesterday, if you're leaving for service tomorrow, if we could get you all to come up here to the front. In my Chicago set, they're gonna help us pass out some degrees. Okay, so maybe we'll start on this end. We just want to again celebrate you. So if you can say your name and then where you are in the process of the application. So if you know what you're being considered for, or if you already know where you're going and when you're going, and then maybe one thing you're looking forward to about service.
Okay, my name is Megan. I'm going to Ethiopia end of June, and I'm for teaching, and I'm excited to get to meet new people.
Hi, I'm Alex. I've been invited to go to Mozambique, which is in South Africa, at the end of September, and I'm excited to hopefully learn the language before I learn how to teach science in that language.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I got invited to serve in the Dominican Republic as a community health volunteers, and I'm really excited to just learn some cooking customs and some dancing.
Hi, I'm Devin. I was invited to serve in Ecuador, leaving at the end of May, and I'm excited to form new relationships with other Peace Corps volunteers and the people in my community.
Cool. My name's Hope. I was invited to serve in the Dominican Republic. Should remember that. And my position is community health. I'm actually going with her, which is kind of awesome. And I'm really excited to master Spanish.
My name is Andrew. I've been invited to serve in Mongolia at the end of May. And I am very excited to see what life is like under the eternal blue sky.
My name's Whitney. I applied, I had my interview today, actually, for rural aquaculture promotion in Zambia. And I guess I'm excited for all those life lessons you're talking about. Gonna change.
I'm Casey. I'm a candidate for the agribusiness advisor position in Ghana, leaving in October. I had my interview last Saturday, and I'm most looking forward to building the meaningful relationships that I hear about that inspire me.
I'm Joel. I've been invited to serve in Moldova, and I leave at the start of June. And I'm excited to just challenge myself in just about every way possible.
I'm Lauren. I've been invited to be an English teacher, yes, in Armenia at the end of August, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot.
I'm Nick. I've been invited to be a coastal resources management volunteer in the Philippines, leaving in July. I'm excited to explore the very diverse ethnic tapestry that the Philippines is proud of.
All right, I'm in the same group as Nick. I'm actually going to be serving in the Philippines in July, also coastal resources management, and just interested to meet new people, learn the culture there.
My name is Hannah. I'll be going to Zambia in June. I'll be an English teacher, and I'm just really looking forward to meeting the community.
I'm Natalie. I'll be going to Swaziland end of June. I'm a Master's International student in social work, and I think I'm most excited for no winter for 2 years.
My name is Peter Wagner. Originally I was supposed to go to Ukraine, which then got changed to Jordan, where I served for 5 months. I was evacuated 2 weeks ago. And then I got replaced to Moldova, where I'll be going in June. So hopefully it'll be third time's a charm. And just ready for pre-service training again. No, seriously.
Hi, my name is Amy. I have just applied and am being considered for a math science education position in Uganda. So we'll see what happens there, and I'm excited by the prospect of going somewhere that I can't imagine at all.
Well, congratulations. Ben has a fun game that he wants to play with you guys.
So you guys are getting some great little bags with Peace Corps swag, which is always nice. I know I can speak from personal experience. Going to Ethiopia without any Peace Corps swag was really tough. And if somebody had a little patch, we were like, oh my gosh, where did you get that? So now that you have that, you can be that person. Everyone's like, where did you get that? So I do have a couple trivia questions for you guys. So I've got a couple of additional prizes here. So the first question I have, where does the University of Michigan rank on the historic, since 1961, top colleges list? Nope.
Darn.
It's top 5. Oh.
Third.
2, 4, 1. It is 4. 2,596 undergraduate return Peace Corps volunteers. So you guys are joining a lot of people, and over 215,000 return Peace Corps volunteers as a whole, as an organization. And I think that a lot of us RPCVs in this group, in this audience here, can definitely speak to how close everybody is, even if you serve on very different continents, thousands of miles away, very different contexts. I think that rural Ethiopia and Ukraine, we definitely have a lot in common. So we definitely want to welcome you to that. So the second question, let's see here. On March 3rd, President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama partnered with the Peace Corps to launch what new initiative? Say it louder.
Let girls learn.
Yeah, let girls learn. last question, what is the total number of host countries Peace Corps has served in to date? It's under 200.
117.
119.
131?
36?
138.
37.
139.
Boom! 140.
So you guys can all take a
Great.
seat.
So yeah, let's give you another round of applause. All right, for this next little round of things, can I get all of the friends and family that are in the audience to come up here?
So nice.
It's the most awkward looking family. Let's go.
It's so nice. Are we gonna see you back in the days?
Well, first I want to say thank you to all of you for supporting, your family members or your friends that are in the Peace Corps or will soon be in the Peace Corps. So I want to give you the Peace Corps service would not be possible without the support of our friends and family back home. And I can definitely say that on many levels, from the emotional support, from receiving care packages, to just the conversations that you have, or even just knowing that you still have friends and family back in the U.S. that are rooting for you, that are really cheering you on in those tough moments. And when you succeed, are also there cheering you on. So it's great to have these types of relationships. And I know that it's, from my parents' perspective, I know it was really difficult. And Rebecca put it very articulately that, taking this beating heart out of you and now sending it to the Peace Corps and having this experience that is very, very foreign in a lot of ways. And, it's something that is definitely difficult. So we really appreciate it, definitely on behalf of all the Peace Corps volunteers and future volunteers. So if we want to just go down the line real quick, I want everyone to introduce themselves and just talk a little bit, just say who you're up here representing in the Peace Corps and kind of what capacity that is. And then I want you to think about what is one item that you would put in a care package to send to them. You can start now.
Hi, I'm Diane. I'm here for my niece Hannah, who's going to go to Zambia, which I know nothing about, but I'm hoping to learn more of. And the one thing that she will be getting is my cookies.
Hi, my name is Amol Jadhav. I'm supporting Hannah. Actually, I'm supporting everybody. But Hannah, and I would give her a diary so that she can write her experiences and she can go back and learn more every day.
Hello everyone, my name is Bobby. I am also supporting Hannah. We're a big group. If I could send her one thing, I would probably just send her a note telling her how much I love and support her.
Hi everybody, I'm Angelica. I'm also here for Hannah. And if I can send her one thing, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. But the funny thing, we actually wear the same pants. And when mine are like dirty or when I need something to wear, she'll wear mine, I'll wear it. We wear the same pants. So I'll probably just be like, here, you can use the pants now. And just send it to me. And I'm like, oh, you're only in Zambia, just give them back. It's no big deal. It's sentimental, so.
My name is Bob Mathers. I'm Hannah's grandpa. send her a great big bundle of safety.
He's so sweet.
I'm Lauren McIntyre. My son Andrew will be going to Mongolia, and of course I'll be sending a family picture with him. And I have also in the process of making a quilt for him and pillowcases so that he can wrap himself up with the love of home.
My name's Dale McIntyre, Andrew's father, and very proud of him. We'll miss him. And one thing I will send him is pads of papers and pencils so he can write, because Andrew loves to write, so all his experiences.
Bruce Wagner, supporting my son Peter, who's been here, there, and everywhere. And in fact, would send him an electric toothbrush, but that's already past him going as he came back. So probably knowing, have been through this a little bit, many things, but food was a thing he liked, so probably some Cholula sauce.
Yeah.
Went out, so that might, after you hear what they don't have in that country to eat. So.
I'm Taylor. I'm also here for Peter. And one of the things he loves to do most is write in his journal. So I'll probably be sending him lots and lots of paper and pens to write with, because it's one of his favorite things to do.
Well, I'm Peter's mom, Patty, and if I could, I would stuff Sammy, our dog, into a care package, because those two went jogging today together. Sammy was heartbroken when Peter left, but she's happy again, so that's what I would do.
I'm Jill Olmack. My daughter Devin is leaving for Ecuador at the end of May. And today she just said to us, she said, I'm really going to miss bagels. And so we were way to send bagels if you possibly do that.
So I'm Artha. I'm here for Lauren, who's going to Armenia. And I'm sending her with a journal and scarves, because that's my specialty.
I'm Kim. I'm Lauren's little sister, and her favorite fruit is tofu. So I would send like a huge box of it. Hopefully it wouldn't spoil.
I'm Mary Lou, and I'm Megan's mom, and she's going to Ethiopia at the end of June. I think I'm going to wait for the requests and then send her what she wants.
I think I'm Megan's dad. I sent her a plaque that says, if not me, then who? Because that's kind of what helped me get over my fear of her going.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm here for my friend Bob, and also for my daughter Gina, who is serving in Costa Rica right now. She'll be home in August, so I shouldn't have to send her anything.
You're sending her yourself.
Yeah.
Going to visit.
Yeah, I'm going to go in beginning of May and go down and see her for a week and see what it's all about. So looking forward to that.
So everyone is going to be held accountable for the gifts they just.
Yeah, it's on record.
It's all recording. No, I can't thank you guys enough for all of the support that you guys have already shown here, and just speaking for all of the other Peace Corps volunteers, family and friends. I know that people that don't have their family and friends represented here are definitely thinking about them, and it's such a huge part of your service is that communication, as Rebecca was talking about. Definitely between all of your volunteers and having that support system there in your host country, but also staying in contact with the loved ones back home. So one last round of applause.
Okay, let's see if I can figure out okay, it's classroom computer. This is my expert on that. I felt a lot of love. Video projector. Okay.
So beautiful.
So we have another very, very special guest tonight who's here to chat with you. He is a returned Peace Corps volunteer. He served in Mozambique from 2007 to 2009 as a community development and health volunteer. He's also a student here at the Ford School of Public Policy, and he also studies over at Ross for his MBA. I can personally attest that he is a fantastic soccer player, having scored 3 goals for us in our soccer game last night, so thank you. And so Jimmy is going to talk to you about the meaning of life and Peace Corps, a brief summary. And I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Okay, so before I start, let's engage in the traditional Peace Corps volunteer call and response. So when I say peace, you say Corps. Peace. Corps. Peace. Corps. All right, just to be clear, that's not a real thing. Volunteers don't really do that, so don't go into your country and start trying that. It'll look kind of weird. So I want to thank Katie, and I just met Ben for inviting me, and thank you to you guys for lending me your ears for the next 10 to 30 minutes. And you know, thanks to the prospective volunteers for being willing to take this journey. I think at the end of the day, or at the end of your service, you're going to feel like it was the right choice, but I don't want to assume anything right now. And then I also want to thank the supporters, because you guys really make it possible for the Peace Corps volunteers, I would say, to get through the 2 years. I think every Peace Corps volunteer can attest to that a lot of our strength comes from you guys, so thank you. And I will also say that last year, 1 year ago, at this nomination party, this very nomination party, in the auditorium next to here, the speaker of the evening was the director of Peace Corps, Carrie Hessler-Radley. So you guys get me tonight, which is just as awesome. Okay, so I'm going to get started. So I served in Mozambique. Where's my friend? Where's my Mozambican sister? There we go. So we're going to talk later. Cool, all right. Yeah, so I'm going to just touch on like a few pretty breezy topics, the meaning of life and the meaning of Peace Corps. And I'm going to start off by talking about this right here. Does anybody know what this is? There's no stupid response.
It's your name. Rainbow.
It's a name. None of those things. And actually, these colors are the colors of the Mozambican flag. I worked a long time last night to create this. That was disrespectful. So, yeah, yes, this is a name. This is a name, but it's so much more than that. Okay, it is my official Peace Corps name. Okay, now you guys, you may not know what I'm talking about, and even some of the Peace Corps or returned Peace Corps volunteers may not know what I'm talking about. Let me explain. Okay, so there's this magazine that I believe most returned Peace Corps volunteers are familiar with. It's called Worldview Magazine. I believe it's produced by the National Peace Corps Association quarterly. And what is in Worldview is basically updates about what Peace Corps volunteers are doing around the world, what returned Peace Corps volunteers are doing around the world. And you know, it's just filled with articles, and it's sent to you free of charge, arrives at your doorstep. Unless you're the guy who's been kicked out of every country. Maybe you have never seen it, but you're supposed to. So let me show you an example. Well, okay, before I get to that. So for me, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I think one of my primary motivations for wanting to do Peace Corps was fear. Okay? My biggest fear before Peace Corps was that I was a punk. Okay? And what do I mean when I say that? I mean that I grew up in pretty nice surroundings. I grew up with a very loving family. I grew up with, you know, probably all the conditions that one could hope to have in order to be successful in life, which is great. I think I got to a certain point, however, where I felt like I don't actually know how tough I am. I've never done anything. The toughest thing I've gone through is maybe, you know, training for a soccer season or something like that. So I don't know. And I got to a point where I just felt like I have to know. You know, it was eating away at me. I would say the final 3 years of my undergrad, it was just eating away at me. I mean, it was something that was like keeping me awake every single night. You know, I thought, are you a punk? You know, maybe I'll never know it, but I have to know. So for me, I said, okay, I have to do Peace Corps. because I feel like that's the most difficult thing that a person my age can do. I have to test myself. I have to put myself up against the most difficult test, and if I make it through, then I'm not a punk. Okay, so that was my rationale. So back to my Peace Corps name. The first few months of my service was a struggle, okay? And that's not unique. I mean, a lot of you guys can go through it. You might go through it at different times, but at the beginning, it was a struggle. So I was looking for anything, you know, some kind of motivation to keep me in the game, okay, to make sure I didn't quit, to make sure I didn't ask to go home, okay? And for me, for whatever reason, when I was reading these Worldview magazines, getting that Peace Corps name was like the most important thing that I could possibly think of. I wanted to become Jimmy Schneidewind, parentheses, Mozambique 2007-2009, close parentheses. Like, that was all I cared about. I had to get there. I wanted to join that fraternity. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's an article. Okay. I don't know who this guy is, but here you go. So this is Michael Mitchell, Niger, 83 to 85, close parentheses. So that's what I wanted, you know. And I would read those articles, and every time I read an article and every time one of these people's names showed up, I was like, that's going to be me. You know, I need that name. And when I get that name, I'm going to sign my name like that on everything. Checks, you know, exams, whatever, letters. There's no more Jimmy Schneidewind after Peace Corps is over. It's just Jimmy Schneidewind, Mozambique, 2007-2009. Okay, so. No, you guys thought I was playing. I'm real. So, here's a calculation I did. Okay, I'm at the Ford School of Public Policy. It's a quantitative school. I quantified my progress toward becoming that Peace Corps volunteer, okay? Getting my Peace Corps name, okay? So here's the calculation, okay? So 365 times 2 years, plus 90, you're all supposed to serve roughly 27 months, okay? So that gives you 820 days, more or less, that you're going to serve, okay? My Peace Corps name, including the parentheses and the close parentheses, and the dash, okay, is 38 characters, okay? So you do the division, and what that means is about every 21 days, I would progress 1 character in my Peace Corps name, okay? So what I did is, I took a piece of paper, I put it on my door in my house. I wrote out my Peace Corps name in pen, and every 21 days, I would go over the next character in marker, okay? That's how you know it was legit. And on that day, I would treat myself to something special, okay? Maybe it was like an awesome juice, some really cool yogurt, or like I would go sit in air conditioning for 15 minutes, but something where I was like, you are the man today, you are progressing in your Peace Corps name, okay? So, all right, so now you see this and now you know what I'm talking about. This is not just a name, this is my Peace Corps name, okay? So let me show you a picture. So this, I have a long last name, you guys saw it, it's a long last name. So at this point, what I'm telling myself is that, look, I still don't know if I'm going to make it through this whole thing without quitting, but I know I'm not going home without my original name. I know I'm not going home without Jimmy Schneidewind, at least. You know, if I'm going to quit, at least let me get Jimmy. I can't be known the rest of my life as Jimmy Schneid. At least let me get to Schneidewind, okay? So this next picture depicts a really important moment in my service. And let's just take a minute to absorb how attractive I am in this. It's really awesome. Anyway, so this was a really important part of my service. You know, I got to my name, just leaving the kind of like the Peace Corps unique part of it left. And you know, to spoil the end of the story, I ended up getting there. Yeah. Okay, so I pressed on it too early. This was supposed to come up in a couple minutes, but I mean, I think, you know, looking back on that Peace Corps name, when I look at it now, you know, I realized that it was very much connected to the motivation that drove me to apply for Peace Corps. You know, I was afraid that I wasn't a somebody. I was afraid that I didn't have enough. I was afraid that I wasn't tough. I was afraid that I lacked certain skills to be impactful in this life, to lead a legacy. And for whatever reason, during my Peace Corps service, that getting that Peace Corps name very much represented to me the embodiment of me becoming the kind of person that I wanted to be. You know, during my service, I thought all the time, I want to know that guy. Like, I want to know what Jimmy Schneidewind, Mozambique 2007, 2009 looks like. I want to know what kinds of conversations he has. You know, I want to know what kinds of skills he has developed. Okay, so I mean that's really why I did the Peace Corps. So this slide, Peace Corps, man, if you think about it, it's a ridiculous idea. I mean, it really is. Like, and these pictures just, I mean, depict some of the, I mean, like, I shouldn't be there. I mean, look at me, right? Like, these people are like, why is this guy sitting by us? And then, you know, these experimental dance moves, like, up here in the upper right, I mean, this was like 7 weeks into training. Portuguese is the language in Mozambique, and I didn't speak a lick of it. I mean, I had 7 weeks. And I'm up there leading a training with a soccer team, using soccer as a metaphor for how HIV attacks the body. That doesn't make sense. I mean, I didn't. And if you really think about it, I mean, think about Peace Corps. Like, what, you know, Sergeant Shriver, you know, comes to JFK and says, you know, I got this great idea. You know, I think we need to take these overprivileged Americans, you know, we need to send them for 2 years into places that they've never heard of. They don't speak the language. They don't know anybody. A lot of them are liberal arts majors. They're not really bringing skills to the table. And this is the genesis, ladies and gentlemen. This is the genesis for Peace Corps. I mean, really, if you think of it, okay? So I always thought this was kind of a crazy idea. But it's been around for, what, 54 years now, okay? So oftentimes I try to reflect and I ask myself, I mean, this is crazy. This is a ridiculous proposition. Why does it work, you know? So I came up sort of with a theory while I was a Peace Corps volunteer. It's the Peace Corps magic, okay? The Peace Corps magic. This is how I thought of it. It's like, you know, you put your dirty clothes into the washing machine, you press a button and they come out 45 minutes later or whatever, and magically they're clean. That's how I felt with Peace Corps. I mean, you take these people who almost in every single way are unqualified to do what you're supposed to be doing there. You put them in, and then 2 years later you come back, you look at them, they're speaking not just national languages like Portuguese, but they're speaking local, like Shawabu, Chichewa, you know, all this kind of stuff. They have integrated in their communities in a way where they are beloved, where they have created these friendships and relationships that last, you know, the rest of their lives. And I always thought of that. I was like, that's pretty incredible. I mean, if you think about it, how does this occur? You know, you press start, and then 2 years later you look at these people, completely different. But is that the case? Okay. So, I mean, you know, when I think about it, I think, do people really fundamentally change during those 2 years? I mean, obviously you change in terms of, you know, you're able to speak different languages, you get different work experiences, you may become a bit more irritable during your 2 years, but, you know, how do you really change in the most fundamental of ways? And, you know, I kind of come back to Cool Runnings, personally. Are people familiar with this movie? Yeah, okay. I'm not trying to condescend. So cool, and I'll just kind of like describe very quickly the scene where this quote emerges. And so John Candy, for those of you who don't know, he is a coach of a Jamaican bobsled team, also a ridiculous proposition. And he himself was also a bobsledder, I don't know, maybe 20 years before this movie is supposed to have taken place. And when he was a bobsledder, he won a gold medal. However, he cheated in order to do it. And so the driver of this Jamaican bobsled, he gets this information, he finds out that his coach cheated, and he approaches him about it. And he asks him, you know, why is it that you cheated? And John Candy, you know, talks about wanting to be somebody, you know. And the quote that he says when he's trying to put it in perspective is that if you're not enough without it, referring to the gold medal, you'll never be enough with it. So that seems kind of pessimistic, but if you flip it around, I think that another more optimistic way of saying that is that whatever gifts, whatever is necessary to achieve, great things in life most of the time, it's something like Peace Corps, are oftentimes gifts that you already have. Gifts that are already inherent in you. The ability to love, the ability to understand other human beings, the ability to forge relationships with other people. These are the gifts that I think that really serve you well going into Peace Corps. It's great to speak the other languages. It's great to have the work skills. But when it comes down to it, and I think every RPCV here would back me up when I say it's about relationships. And what facilitates relationships in this context is love and it's understanding. And when you're hurting during Peace Corps, as all of you will, sometimes it is going to be because you're missing the air conditioning and you're missing the yogurt or whatever it is, your dog. But a lot of times it's because the muscles, that you use to love and understand are not tested here in the United States or, wherever you're from, your community, like they are when you're a Peace Corps volunteer. They are tested to the max, and I think that's something else that people would back me up on. So a lot of times that pain is just, when you start a new workout routine, and you're doing bicep curls, whatever, for the first time, you're going to be sore. And it's similar. It really is similar with Peace Corps. So I want to tell you, one more story, kind of try to wrap things up. And that is that, so I finished my service in 2009. And for the next 2 years, I would say almost monthly, maybe once every 1.5 months, I would have an anxiety dream, even a nightmare to some extent. I would dream that I had arrived in the provincial capital in the province where I live. So I lived in a province called Zambezia. It's in the north. And the capital is Kilimani. And so I arrived there for some kind of public health conference, And I'm there, we just finished the meetings for the day. And I think to myself, I need to go to Niquidala. So that's my town. Niquidala is about 40 minutes outside of Kilimani. So I get in one of these mini buses, and I start traveling the road to Niquidala. This is a ride that, in real life, I've taken, 200 times. And I can picture everything vividly. I see the streams next to the road. I see the people selling the fish that they caught for the day. I see the rice paddies. I can smell sometimes the burning, associated with the agriculture cycle. I see it all, and I start coming into town on the minibus, and I can see the soccer fields, and I see my teammates. And I get to the stop that I always get off at in Niquidala. And I get off, and I start walking towards my house, and I see my friends and the people that I consider to be family members, and they start walking toward me, and I start walking toward them, and we have our arms out, we're about to hug each other, this triumphant moment. And just as we're about to hug, the dream ends. And I had that same exact dream for 2 years. Every month and a half. And I couldn't figure it out, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know what's behind that. But, I did know that I was starting school here in the fall of 2012. And I felt like I needed to go back. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was trying to accomplish while I was there, but I felt like I had to go back. So 2 months before I started classes here, I go back to Mozambique. And I fly up and I go to Niquidala. And, it was amazing. It was just amazing. People remembered me. I think I had anxiety about that. I saw a kid from my soccer team. This guy hasn't seen me in 2 years, and he's like, "Hey, Jimmy, how's it going?" I was like, "Hey, I'm good." He's like, "Why have you been missing practice?" I showed up to practice that day. I saw my coach, my former coach. He said the same thing. He's like, "Jimmy, why are you late?" Well, coach. And so here are some pictures from that trip. These are people, you know, I consider my family members. Shoy, Guida, Hilda, Constantino, Elidio, Alfredo, those in the upper right. This is my Mozambican mother, is close to a biological mother besides my biological mother that I have, Ana Maria. This is my host mother, and these are her two siblings, Sipo on the right, and this is her sister on the left. I never got her name. I don't think she ever got mine, but she did ask me to marry her. So I felt like it'd be good to include a picture of her. And so I took that trip, you know, had these great experiences. I haven't had the dream once since then. You know, it's been about 3 years now. And I think it's because from my perspective, I feel like I understand better that Peace Corps magic. I feel like I've been able to deconstruct it, sort of in the way that I explained to you guys earlier. You know, it's funny, before I went to Peace Corps, you know, I had this fear, am I a punk? You know, I'm not enough, you know. And then after I did Peace Corps, I have this other fear where I think I lost it, you know. Whatever skills that I developed during Peace Corps to create this kind of love and to be part of this kind of community, I don't have it anymore. And so the one drove me to go to Mozambique for Peace Corps, and the other one drove me to come back to understand better. And I think, I mean, again, what I come back to is these are skills, you know, the love, the understanding, that are part of me. And, you know, judging by the type of family and friend support that a lot of you guys have here today, I'm sure that they're part of you. So, in conclusion, you know, I promised the meaning of life in Peace Corps. Spoiler, I don't know what the answers are to those things. But I do think that's what you have to keep in mind, you know, when you're going in, that you will be stretched, but it's because your heart is stretching, and you will have times when you're in pain, but that's because you're forced to love and understand in ways that maybe you've never had to do before. But you're ready. You know, I really believe that all of you are ready. I mean, that's the thing that a lot of Peace Corps volunteers understand. You get to the site, and you go through trials and tribulations for maybe the whole time, most of the time that you're there, but you get to a point at the end where you look in the face of somebody that could not have a more different life experience than you, and you see a friend. I mean, you see a mother, you see a brother, you see a sister, and you have these lifelong relationships. So that is my talk. I want to wish all of you guys luck, and, you know, relax a little bit, because you're going to do fine. Thank you.
Ben's gonna lead off the next section, and I'll figure out if I know how to use this.
I think there's one group that we haven't had come up with. I get all the RPCVs to come up.
And then that never forgive us. Already went to the Peace Corps. Yeah.
Is that bad? Watch that.
Yeah, a lot of them actually. It didn't seem like there was that much in the audience before. Just when you look at who's left over, you know. I don't know. It's just like half of everybody.
So this is what you guys are going to look like.
That's terrifying.
That's terrifying.
Scary as well.
So there are a lot of us, so I want everyone to be able to speak a little bit. So we can go through, and if everybody wants to just introduce themselves and say which country they served in and what years. And then I want you to say what was either the best or the worst thing that you brought with you to your Peace Corps service. What we brought with us? Yeah, what you brought with you. The best item or the most useless item that you brought with you.
Okay, let's kick it off. So Katie served in Ukraine. worst thing, I had this weird electric charger thing. I don't know. Someone said that I should like have it so my computer doesn't die. And the first time I plugged it in at my host family's house, I like short-circuited everything. Like having major panic attacks. I knew absolutely no Russian, and it was. I called my LCF, my language instructor, and was like, "What do I do?" So useless. Wish I never would have brought it. Didn't use it again.
Peter again. Jordan 2014 to 2015. And probably the best thing that I brought was my sleeping bag, because I didn't know that houses in Jordan didn't have central heating, but I found out rather quickly. And it was very, very cold. We're talking like 20 degrees in the house in the winter. And so I'm glad I brought that, because otherwise it would have been rough.
Hi, I'm Jessica Gañas. I served in Honduras from 2010 to 2012. The best thing I took were thermal underwear. I was going to Honduras, which is not supposed to be cold, but I was placed in a mountain region, which did get cold during the winter season at night, and there's no heat. And so they came in really handy.
My name is Sarah. I served in Zambia from 2009 to 2011. Excuse me. The most useful thing I think I brought was an external hard drive. Every time I had computer access, I backed up all my photos.
Alright, I'm Zachary. I served in Ukraine from 2011 to 2013. And I think the best thing that I brought was my skin color. Because I brought a new perspective. So.
My name is Jimmy. You may remember me. I think when I participated this 2 years ago, I'm going to give the same answer that I gave then. And that is the worst thing, solar shower. If you think you stand out in some of these rural communities as an American, just being there, try hanging up a solar shower outside your house. It will exacerbate the problem. It's really stupid.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Kennedy. I served in Peru. And the best thing I brought is really big, so you may be skeptical, but a yoga mat, because all of the floors were either like dirt or cement, and everyone was really jealous because there were no yoga mats there, so I was like the only one who could like exercise or even like sit on the floor.
My name is Michael Gall, and I served in Micronesia from 2007 to 2009, and I didn't bring a whole bunch with me, but Peace Corps provided me with a mosquito net, which pretty much saved my life.
So I'm Nate Geyer. I served in Peru from 2010 to 2012. I'm going to go with the worst thing, which I thought was a great thing.